Well, good morning, modelers of all scales around the world. This is Scott Robertson. I thought I'd give a little update on my never done and always changing railroad. As you can see here, established in 2004 when we moved in this house. My wife recently gave me this sign for my birthday, so it was really cool. And so I posted it above the door. Anyways, let's go for a little tour. It'll bring you up to date on what I've been working on for the past few months. So here as we enter the room, as you can see, the room is a fairly decent size. It's about 365 square feet. It originally housed a ON30 layout, and about 3-4 years ago now, I'm converting or changing over to what I'm calling 124 scale G. So I'm measuring everything at 124 scale or half-inch scale when I'm doing buildings. The trains are G scale, either Bachmann or whatever, or scratch built, LGB, whatever seems to work. I'm not really worrying about what their exact scale is. I'm just adapting. So some scenes you've seen before maybe. This is kind of the arid part of my railroad. It's to represent kind of a southwestern desert somewhere along the borders of Arizona. And we've got mines here, the never and always mines. These are competing mines for, they are mining bombacium. Anyways, moving on with that. So some various scenes that I got, some miners watching some javelinas have cornered a small coyote or wolf. Little Chloe locomotive that I just kind of weathered over. I don't like to see things too shiny. This is the town of Cassidy, the railroad station here. Little street scene going on. And then the backside of part of a street scene. So I was able to model both the front and back side. And then this area here is kind of a transition to another part of the area, kind of going up into the mountains. So the buildings create a bit of a transition, kind of a view break between those two areas, between this more arid mountain desert scenes into more of a mountain scene, which I'll get to in a minute. Now I'm going to take a quick duck under my duck under, something that seemed like a good idea about 14 years ago, but as my back and my legs have aged, not quite as good as I thought it was going to be. Anyways, up, here we go. So coming around, this is the front side of that, still working through some of the details. I tend to bounce around on things. So this is that front street scene. All these buildings are scratch built using balsa for the most part. Some of this redwood stuff here was actually fence boards that a friend of mine had sliced into real thin slivers as he was trimming down some boards and gave me the leftovers. This is actually paper textures in 1/2 inch scale that I did. I did a lot of this in my O scale modeling. And gas station here. Coming back around, little tank locomotive that I weathered up. I don't really change a whole lot of things on the models I get. I tend to paint them. This was a boxcar that I shortened. I try to keep the kind of small, short equipment because I don't have a lot of space in here, and I'm using pretty sharp curves. I'm using some really cheap Bachmann track that comes with the train sets. I found that that worked for me, and I didn't have to put in new rail, etc., and I had it, and it was cheap. Some weathering on some vehicles. Little scene going up. Here's the other side of the always mine. I'm still working out the little dump trestle that'll come across this area. Water tank, steel water tank. Look like there's a bit of a problem with a a loose steer here. Coming around this side a little bit more. This is another portion of the town, kind of the older portion, kind of adobe buildings, that sort of thing, still to be completed. This is built on a little removable piece so that I can get into this corner. I'll get down to that lower section in just a moment. The background rocks and things are all made out of foam rubber, so that Frox method. I hand painted the clouds on the wall, and this was a photographic panorama scene. I have access to a large format printer where I work, and I was able to print a nice clean copy of that and stick it to the wall, which was, you know, no small feat. If you've ever done something like that where you need to make it permanent, you get one shot at it. A little bit of a Saguaro Forest, using some clay saguaros that I built in my O-scale days, but it creates kind of a forced perspective. Again, more of the foam and pink foam rocks carved in. This creates a bit of a view block between scenes on either side. Coming back around. Again, this is a little horse corral where cowboys that are rounding up Mustangs would put them into this area, and then they would maybe be herded off for sale or put on rail cars at this point. And you can see back here, a little kind of encampment, little outhouse. And here's a cowboy right now bringing one of those in that he's wrangled. This scene includes a little small slot canyon. Can't really see down into it. It's kind of dark down there. Kind of smelly down there too, based on what this guy ate for lunch. But anyways, moving down, life and death in the desert. And then transitioning around, I always wanted one of these little rock archways. And again, what this does is it, in my opinion, creates a bit of a view transition between the desert area, the red rocks, and then coming around here to what I'm going to call, you know, kind of the mountain scene area. This is a little whistle stop station that I built using a Bachmann big haulers passenger car that was really too long for my desires on the railroad, but it seemed to fit perfectly and convert into a station, outhouse. Some guys playing checkers while some people are waiting for the next train. Little station master's house here up in the area. Got his own little outhouse. A lot of trash. I kind of assume you got to do something with all that trash. People are going to be throwing out cans and boxes and stuff from what they're eating. Another view of that. Swinging around. This is a scratch-built water tank. My favorite little dog here that I use in a lot of my scenes. If you follow stuff that I'm doing on Facebook, I like to use these guys for scale when I'm photographing. This was a fun project. I really enjoyed this, the way it came out, the weathering. This also was the scratch-built house. Used to have a light on inside. Still has a light, not on inside because I left the battery on too long and burned it out. And it looks like there's a bear. That could be a problem. Another small scene. Scratch-built car. Was experimenting with some small shorty cars. And then again, transition back into what I'm calling the scenery area. Canyon wall, trees, the backdrop and trees from the old ON30 layout. A lot of scenery materials here used from different sources. I use a blend of, this is actually real rock that I actually restained, put a little white coating on it and restained it to kind of blend with some of the other rock I was putting together. I had a lot of this rock that I collected from along some rivers here in Northern California, and just decided to reuse it. It works out real well, it blends nicely. This is some of that Bragdon's resin foam material a friend of mine gave me, and that I reused, patched together. This is going to be a little cabin area. Coming around back into civilization a bit. A little mining town. I'm going to be recreating at least my own version of this mine here. Famous by Joe Crea in Model Railroad magazine, and also Narrow Gauge Gazette in past years. But I always liked that, and I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity to see what I can recreate in 1/24 scale also. So you can see here, this is a lot of stuff still under construction. I bounce around between making buildings, doing different things. There's a few kits here that I've modified to make them kind of my own. This was a, what is this, a Pico kit? Or anyways, somebody will probably recognize it, that I weathered up. Scratch building going on here. The station is not scratch built, it was a kit. This little modification I did from an LGB European looking car that I turned into a little shed. This has its own lighting inside, some detailing. This will be right up front. So a lot of detail going on. These areas will be heavily detailed. And again, this back street view, kind of foreshortened because you clearly can't see the width of the street going on in there. But you get an idea of a small town happening. Again, a little bit more detail, still under construction. Scratch built service station. Really like this. This was all done with balsa oil stains. One of those Hubby, I think they're called Hubley cars. It's a bit out of scale, but it kind of works. Those older models always were a little larger anyway, so it's kind of hard to tell in my opinion. I really like the way the scene was turning out. So again, you get an idea here of the little town that I'm trying to recreate. Again, picking at it a little bit at a time. Some transition scenery again. Back around. This is actually no scale mine I did. I'm going to be putting a lot of trees in front of it, so again, it gives a bit of a forced perspective. Not sure what I'm going to do up here just yet. Got some various ideas, but then what it does is it transitions back around, and now you're back into the town of Cassidy. So that's the upper level of the never done and always changing 1/24 G-scale railroad. Something else I'd like to show you right now is when you get around, I'm going to take it down here a little bit. You'll see on this lower level, some years ago, I also had started an ON30 point-to-point logging line when I reclaimed all the space below the layout. And I was looking to abandon it. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this area down here. As you can see, I partially completed it back into this area, this corner. Sorry about the jitteriness. Coming around, and you can see the ON30 track. Actually, some of this is HO scale track I was just using directly, burying the ties, etc. And so then I got to thinking, hey, why not try to create a little GN 15, so 1/24 scale, 15-inch gauge railroad. And I thought I could maybe convert some of my equipment that I already have. And so I started doing that little experiment. I found that actually using some of the existing cars, because it was this smaller gauge and smaller size equipment, it seemed to work, at least in my opinion. Again, my opinion, all that matters. And then here's a Bachmann 260 ON30 Mogul locomotive that I add a little water tank, oil tank on the back, water tank, and then redid the cab, added some details. And it's like kind of a cutesy little chunky locomotive. Again, some other opportunity to do more structure building. This is the kind of thing I really like to do. These were made out of PVC pipe. This was like a 3-inch, maybe 2.5-inch size pipe with a 3/4, 1-inch connector already built into it, and then some various details that I got through shape waves that was 3D printed, balsa wood construction. more views down here. So I was able to actually reuse a few buildings like this. This tractor repair shed here was actually a fairly decent size in O scale. And so I think was able to adapt it. And what I did is I put a little stone foundation on the bottom of it, raised it up, got a new building. That building in the back is new. These are some new cars that I actually built over ON30 frames. Again, some other O-scale details that I think will still work as details in the foreground. And then I've been slowly working on some of the buildings in here, a new water tank area, some of the readapted cars from O-scale by adding some different size wheels, other equipment and things. This was a fun little job. This was, I built this over the top of a Bachmann rail bus and just kind of built it up, weathered it up. Really enjoyed this. It's all got sound. A little box car built over the top of another frame that's all built out of balsa. And again, there's an ON30 Shay that I then converted by just building up the cab. Another building. Engine house was the same way. This was actually an O-scale building that I ended up converting by just raising the foundation, and with these smaller locomotives it still fits. I just added the raised shed. I'm using a lot of the details from before. To me, it's hard to tell when you get a lot of detail going. It all just seems to work. 50-gallon drums become 25-gallon drums, etc. Some more work around here still to be done. Again, this is an O-scale sawmill, but I might raise this. I'll have to if I need to get the train underneath the trestle here. But it still kind of works. It's in the background, and when you get a lot of detail in the foreground, it tends to go away. This area to be completed down here at the inlet will be a small town. These are just little leftover mock-up buildings that I just stuck back here for now. But I'm just going to build up along that background. Add some buildings here along the waterfront. And then where that goes is, so this is the end of the line. I consider this kind of an island railroad here. As you can see, going back, this is all that engine service facility and kind of camp. And then as we spin back around here, sorry to make you sick, it goes back out to this other area, which is going to be toward the end of the line where I'm going to have a logging camp. And this logging camp will just be built into the side of the hill. Going to be a lot of trees. There's going to be some really big trees back in here, not yet constructed. You can see this is all under construction using ON30 track to get my GN15. And this was one of my latest builds, which will be a dining hall, kitchen, and then pantry. So again, you can see still constructing the scenery around it. It's going to go off, excuse me, it's going to go off here into the corner, which is a little tricky because it's hard to get in there. Hence the reason I have this lift out section so I can get back there a little bit. And then come back around. Probably more logging camp, not really sure. I kind of make the stuff up as I go along. And then transition back into that scenery area that goes back to the camp. So I have a lot of modeling opportunity left, different things to do. But just wanted to give everybody a quick update. It's, it's October, it's mid-October right now. And so just wanted to say hi to everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. Thanks for all your support. I post on Facebook on a lot of different modeling sites. So with that, just want to say happy modeling. Keep up your good work. Hopefully some of this might be inspiring. I know I get inspired by a lot of other people that I follow, and videos like this and other postings on various websites really help. So keep it up, stay well, stay safe, till we meet again. Thanks, bye.